guys, it's Annie from Anti-Fragile Physical Therapy, and I wanted to take some time today to talk about relaxation exercises. The focus here is a little more specific to the pelvic floor, the diaphragm, the rib cage, and the lower back, but these are good exercises that you can use if you're in any sort of tense state. Our body doesn't work in isolation, the pelvic floor doesn't work in isolation, and so even if you're just having a really stressful day or a stressful time, like a lot of us are here now in Western North Carolina, these are good exercises to relax, breathe, and focus on what's going on inside of your body. And then furthermore, if you have any sort of issues with pelvic floor dysfunction, these are things that you might be prescribed by your physical therapist. If you see me, I will absolutely give you exercises like this, if not these exact exercises. So they're just a good reference for that. The focus for diaphragmatic breathing is to get your body to calm down. So we're using our nervous system and the way that we're wired to breathe through our diaphragm a little bit more specifically and more deliberately to help our body relax and to help activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest nervous system, versus the fight or flight nervous system or sympathetic nervous system. So when we're talking about diaphragmatic breathing, the diaphragm lives right here and the pelvic floor lives at the bottom of the pelvis. So they're kind of inverse of each other and they move together like a piston. So when we're talking about the diaphragm moving down, the pelvic floor should relax and open up. When the diaphragm contracts as we exhale, the pelvic floor should just naturally rise back to where it's sitting at this nice resting tension. For diaphragmatic breathing, we're focusing on the ribs moving here because the diaphragm lives right here at the bottom of the rib cage. So I always like to keep people first to just tune into what their rib cage is doing. You can put your hands on either side of your ribs like this. I have my thumb along the back side and my other fingers are resting on the front of my ribs. And from here, taking a deep breath in slowly through your nose and letting your ribs open up 360 degrees like a big umbrella. So picture that umbrella as you inhale. All the way in, so my ribs feel bigger all the way around. If I was to put a tape measure here, I would see a couple centimeters of excursion. And then I exhale through my mouth. And you exhale all the way until you feel like there's no more air to get out of your core and your body right here. That tells me that the diaphragm's all the way in and then you come all the way out with that expansion. And so we're getting a full breath, which is just good for the brain, but it's also good for all of the rib mobility and the ab mobility in this area. I'll often start people laying down for this exercise, but we can do it sitting, you can do it in any position. So the next few stretches that I'll show you are some that are really good to help open up the hips and help relax the pelvic floor. The two generally go hand in hand. So if someone has really tight hips, I would bet that there might be some pelvic floor tightness and vice versa. So the first one that I've done some other videos on is child's pose. So a supported child's pose can feel really comfortable for the low back, for the hips, and it helps us sit into a position that opens up the pelvic floor muscles and lets our hips open up away from each other to stretch that area and take some pressure out of that area. So for that, you get into a regular child's pose position, but I like to add a pillow or some sort of block between the knees, so between the thighs and the calves there, to give you a little bit extra to sit on. So when you sink back into that stretch, your hips have a little more support, so your body can relax into that stretch better rather than hanging out on tension. And then it's harder for us to take a deep breath and let those muscles release. So in this position, focusing on those breaths, inhale, and as you inhale, think about your sit bones, which are right here, the area right in the bottom of your butt that you sit on every day. You should think about those sit bones as you're inhaling, they're opening up away from each other. So you inhale, sit bones open up, you feel your pelvic floor muscles drop, so the area in between those sit bones just opens up like a balloon, and then you relax and everything comes back together. So you get comfortable here. You can put, I'm going to use a foam roller, but you can put pillows underneath your chest, something here to let you relax. So it doesn't have to look like a normal child's pose. It can be modified in whatever way is comfortable, because the bottom line is I want you to feel like you can just melt into this position to let your whole body relax, but especially the pelvic floor. The other stretch that will adapt a little bit is a butterfly stretch, which a lot of people are generally familiar with. But when we're in this stretch here and we just let the knees fall out to the side, my adductor muscles here, the groin muscles, act like springs and they're holding my knees up. And so I could just let them relax and you see them bounce a little bit. Again, like the child's pose, we want everything to completely relax and to melt into that position. So I like to add a little bit of support underneath the thighs so that we come a little bit out of this end range. So my knee's not going to look like it's as low to the floor, but I can relax out into this position. My adductors here are completely relaxed. And then I can focus on my deep breathing and letting that tension melt away through all the hip muscles through here. So nothing's holding anything up anymore. You could almost just fall asleep into this position. But that's ultimately what we need for the nervous system sometimes to completely regulate, to get into that parasympathetic nervous system, and to let those muscles just open up, stretch, and relax without holding on to any little bit of tension to try to hold us into that stretch. So for here, I would set a timer as well, focusing on your breaths, but holding this for a couple minutes, maybe 2 minutes at the least, to focus on your breathing, let everything relax, and just let your body do what it can do without trying to push into a stretch. The last one that I like to focus on, you'll use a yoga block. Again, pillows, something to get you a couple inches off the ground, or to meet you where you're at with your deep squat. So I can squat pretty low to the floor, but I need a little bit of support. If you can only squat here, then stack a couple of books or a couple of yoga blocks underneath you, because we want to be in this nice deep squat, but you should feel relaxed through your back, relaxed through your hips, and you should be able to just rest your hands, your elbows on your knees and your hands right in front of you in this position without feeling any pain or tension. So from the side, it looks like this. If we turn a little bit to the front, just like this. So completely relaxed squat. I could sit here all day, and all I'm focusing on again is the breathing. So I'm here holding this position. My back is relatively neutral, so I'm not just sitting in a complete slouch posture, but I'm neutral here. My knees are open, and I'm focusing on a big inhale into my back. Those ribs are opening up 360 degrees here, and I'm letting that pressure from the air travel all the way down through my hips and then into the pelvic floor muscles. So they're opening up in this deep squat position, and then when I exhale, everything just relaxes and comes back together. So focusing on this helps to relax things. It's a good exercise for like labor prep. You can do it all throughout pregnancy, but also if you have tightness in the bottom of a squat, if you have back pain in the bottom of the squat, this is something good to look into. If you find that your hips get really pinchy in the front with this exercise, I would just modify by coming up higher out of that deep squat to find that area that feels comfortable for you so that you can sit with your hips open and everything is opening up together without compromising any pinchiness in your hips.